So I moved up to Kaysville a few years ago. And if you don't live in a big city like Salt Lake is where I used to live, it becomes quite hard to find meat that seems high quality, like from a grass-fed cow that's free of antibiotics and other things that they might inject in the animal. Anytime I go out of town from Salt Lake, when I would go out of town in the past, like going to my hometown in Idaho, going to any small rural area, you would think that'd be where you get the greatest foods because that's where the farms are, but it's actually the opposite. For some reason, I know this isn't all the time. I'm sure there's, you know the right people in small towns, you can get access to really great food, but just to the general public, for the most part, like anytime I'm traveling and going through small towns, I think specifically like North California, I traveled there a couple years ago up and down the coast, and most of the food was what I consider trash. And it really sucks to feel like I am going on a survival mission anytime I leave my house and leave the place where I know where the good food's from. That's what it feels like anytime I travel, so I just don't even like to travel that much. So I feel like I have to start making these reviews and start talking about what I want to see more of in the world. I feel like food is really like high quality food. It seems to be really important for how I feel. For the last 10 years, I've been somewhat obsessed with my personal health. And I've come to understand that quality food is a huge part of that. And looking around for quality food is, again, it's kind of fucking hard. Moving to Kaysville, it was kind of scary, to try and find a place that has good grass fed meat around here because I don't really want to travel 30 minutes anytime I want to get meat, because that's how far away Salt Lake is. So just to get straight to the point, for people that don't wanna watch this whole video, there's a brand called Bar 10 Beef. They're grass-fed meat. They are based out of their farm or ranch is in Southern Utah, so they're somewhat local, which, that's unfortunately becoming a rarer thing nowadays, local food. And what I really like about them, as far as I can tell, it's what makes them stand out more than any other local meat around here. Because there's people at the farmers market, there's Redmond's, there's Utah Natural Meats. Granted, they're farther away from me, and the farmers market is only open around the summertime. But what makes Bar 10 separate is that their meat is not frozen. And this is a really important point that I want to get across around meat that's never been frozen. It makes a difference. Meat that's not frozen, from my experience, is always going to be better. It's always going to be higher quality when it's not frozen. You lose flavor when you freeze the meat. The actual texture of the meat, like literally when you freeze water, it expands, and since meat is full of water, it expands the meat, and then when you unthaw it, it's been changed. And so it changes the way the texture is, and again, it changes the taste. Like when meat's too cold for too long, it changes the taste. And then on top of that, there's ideas that I can't prove around bacteria because I can't fucking see it. So I guess we just trust other people's ideas, people that have studied it or think that they know what they're talking about. I follow an idea that when you freeze meat, you kill part of the microbiome on the food, and so you get an imbalanced amount of type of bacteria in your food. And an example of what seems like might prove that this idea is true is you take regular milk, you can leave raw milk out on the counter, and if it sits out in a warm enough temperature for long enough, a bacteria that tastes more sweet proliferates. So the milk will taste sweeter because in the warmer environment, that type of bacteria that has a sweeter taste is proliferating. Whereas if you put the milk in the fridge, and granted, it'll take way longer for the milk to ferment, a type of bacteria that tastes more sour proliferates. And so, you get sour milk when you just leave it in the fridge for a long time, but it's somewhat the opposite for a while when you leave it out in the warm temperature. And so there's something that's happening where the temperature dictates what type of bacteria are dominating the environment. And again, I just think there's something I'm kind of a naturalist. I'm into following the natural ways, but I also understand that we have gone very far away from the natural way of living with nature. And maybe we've mutated and changed, and maybe going back to the natural way isn't always the best choice for an individual. But I like to practice trying out the natural ways that people may have used to practice. And eating meat that hasn't been refrigerated is uh, a really natural thing, actually. Before refrigeration, which was what, under 100 years ago, meat wasn't frozen unless it was winter time. So there was a big part of the year where everybody was eating really fresh meat, I assume consistently, or they were eating meat that was fermented, which I honestly don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I personally really enjoy fresh tasting meat. And it might sound a little crazy, like, why would somebody not want the freshest food, let alone fresh meat? But that doesn't seem to be the case in a lot of the stores. And from my experience, y- and a lot of people like this, so I might be bashing my head against the wall a little bit, but I really don't like seeing meat being aged. Like, I think it's great, yeah, have the option for people, but can we also have fresh options that we know are fresh? Like, that's what I really want to push with this video. I want to see fresh options more often. And I want it to be grass fed, high quality meat. I want to know the animal was raised well, and all that stuff. And Bar 10, the grass fed meat company, they seem to bring most of that to the table, as far as I'm aware. And you can find any Bar 10 brand in Harmon's, and Harmon's is located all over Utah. So there's a Harmon's in St. George, there's a Harmon's in Ogden, and there's Harmon's in between. There's lots of Harmon's in Salt Lake and all the surrounding area. There's a Harmon's in Farmington, which is 10 minutes away from where I live. So that's where I go. And the meat's on the shelf, but it's sliced up. So, pro tip, if you want meat really fresh and you want it to still have that really dark texture, which, man, it's usually a really great sign. It's going to taste so much better. Go to the butcher at whatever Harmon's you're at, and you ask them if they have any full cuts of the Bar 10 grass fed beef in the back. I've done this at two different Harmon's. I've done it at the one in Sandy, and I've done it many, many times. I do it multiple times a week here at the one in Farmington. And they'll either like ask you what cuts you want, which you'll probably want to learn about the different cuts of meat, or just ask them to bring them out for you, or they'll just bring them out without even asking. There's a couple of guys that will just bring out the boxes with all the cuts of meat, and you can look through them and choose which one you want. And honestly, I think they all taste good. And when they're still packaged and they haven't been opened yet, they haven't been exposed to new bacteria. So they stay fresh tasting for longer. And another thing that makes them stay more fresh tasting for longer is, since the meat hasn't been cut up, there's less surface area exposed to bacteria. So I can pull meat out of the fridge and have like a big chunk, and I can just slice it up, and the inside's going to usually still be really dark red in it. It'll last usually for at least a couple weeks. It'll start turning brown on the outside, but sometimes it'll stay dark red in the middle for, I haven't really kept track for how long it can stay that way, but I think almost at least 2 weeks. And if you ask them when fresh shipments are coming in, like I've gotten their meat like really, really fresh, like 1 or 2 days after the animal's been killed, the meat's in the store. And again, this meat is pretty local. Southern Utah, it is kind of far away, but it's closer than what you're going to get from many other places. Like, I've gone to Whole Foods. I used to eat a lot of meat from Whole Foods and a lot of meat from Sprouts, and that meat is always hit or miss. Every once in a while, it tastes good, but a lot of the time, the meat's already really starting to turn, and they don't know where their meat comes from a lot of the time. Like, at least every time I've asked, when I've gone into Whole Foods specifically, like, I've never asked them at Sprouts, but I assume all this meat comes from, who knows, like, it could come from fucking Australia or New Zealand, or on the other side of the planet. And I'm just going to take a guess that meat that's coming from the other side of the planet, it's probably hard for that to be super fresh. And again, I know a lot of people like aged meat, but I really want to push back against that. There's something really delicious about fresh meat. And, maybe people can just learn how to age it themselves or something. I don't know how that whole process works. It Aged meat does not taste that good to me. I want fresh food, fresh meat, fresh food in general, but I'm more talking about meat because I feel like meat can be really healthy for people, and at the very least, it feels very healthy for me to eat it consistently. And granted, I eat meat raw mostly, like 80. to 90% of my calories from meat is from raw meat. I feel really amazing eating raw meat. And honestly, when I think about it and I think about how frowned upon it is, it does make me feel angry because I've been eating raw meat for 4 years. I haven't gotten sick from it. I haven't had any direct sicknesses in the past 4 years that I can say, "Oh, this was because of bacteria or parasites or whatever in the meat that made me sick." I eat raw meat and my digestion feels the most amazing it's ever felt. I think part of the reason why I've gained this awareness about how much better fresh meat is and how it's hard to come by, um, is over the past 4 years since I've been eating it raw. When I first started eating raw meat at the beginning of 4 years ago, I didn't really know the difference between fresh and old meat, like, I didn't know the taste because when you cook your meat, you're killing the bacteria, you're adding salt, you're maybe putting a sauce on the meat, and it masks the flavor of what the meat really tastes like, and so, just going back and forth between raw meat and cooked meat these past 4 years, I've really become aware and then trying lots of different companies, like, I've been trying companies all across the United States. I've been trying deer meat that's from Hawaii and even steaks that are $100 per pound from certain companies. And the meat's almost always old. It's always frozen. There's two places I know in the United States that will try and ship you fresh meat, but one of those places, the meat's bad half the time I get it. I can only imagine, yeah, it's hard to ship meat fresh and keep it cold the whole time, especially when it's coming from New York. And that's a place I'm thinking of specifically. There's another place that it gets it to you unfrozen, but the meat doesn't always taste that good. I want my meat to consistently be fresh and taste good. And this meat at Harmon's from the Bar 10 brand, if you get it fresh and you get it in the whole cut, and consistently tastes really amazing. And man, and when I think about it, I get excited. It's just like, oh man, fresh meat just like turns me on. That sounds kind of weird. Whatever. So yeah, I just want to really promote this Bar 10 brand and I just like to not feel like I'm at the end of I would just like to not feel so unnerved that my source of high quality food is going to disappear. There was a couple months, there was a problem with the Bar 10 meat. I think maybe they thought some of it got left out for too long and they had to throw away a whole shipment of it. And so they didn't have it around for 2 months, and I wasn't sure if they were gonna get it in again. During that time, I was like, "Well, what am I gonna do? I have to drive to Salt Lake and buy Whole Foods or Sprouts meat that's gross half the time, and they don't even know where it comes from." Like, the people that work there, the people at Whole Foods, all they really say is you just go on the website and you go on the website and it's like, oh, this meat's good. And that's all it says. It doesn't tell you anything about where the specific meat that you're eating comes from. And I think that's really problematic. I mean, we're already disconnected from our food. Can we at least like get the story behind the specific food that we're eating? Can we at least just know the story or at least have a story? Just tell us any story about the food's process and exactly that it comes from and how fresh it is, like when the animal was killed. So again, like when this Harmon's Bar 10 brand, like when they went away for 2 months, it sucked. And I can have meat shipped to me in the mail. I have the meat from Hawaii shipped to me in the mail, and it's really good meat. It comes from wild animals, but the problem is that it's frozen. There's just something that is lost with frozen meat. And another problem with frozen meat is people can sit on it for longer. So frozen meat is really good for any company that's selling it because they can just let it sit there for months and months sometimes. And some of this frozen meat, I don't know how many months it's been sitting. And sometimes when you unthaw it, like it's already turning brown. And again, it just doesn't, even if it is fresh, it just doesn't taste as good. Like sometimes at least it seems like the frozen meat has been recently frozen, but it's just lost something. And it just really feels like I'm living in a world where it just feels like survival food. Like I understand frozen meat is important if like we're in the survival mode and it's like it's the only option. It makes sense when it's like a last resort thing. But like in a world where we have abundance, I'd like to see the highest quality brought to the table. And that's what I want in my body because that's what makes me feel the best. It's what tastes the best. It's more enjoyable to eat. So yeah, bar 10. I guess if you have any questions, you're welcome to reach out to me. I can't guarantee I'll respond to anything. It just depends how I'm feeling. Okay, so there's a couple other things I think it's important for people to be aware of when they're finding a good meat source that they want, and also why it's better to buy a whole cut from the back of the store by asking the butcher for it. So again, when they slice the meat up, it gets exposed to bacteria. They put it in the plastic serving tray that they cover with plastic wrap, and they put it up on the shelf. One of the problems with it being on the shelf is that it's exposed to light, and that changes the color of the meat. One of my friends that's a butcher, that's something that he told me. He's like, when the meat's sitting out, it changes color, and I can't be super confident on how that's changing the actual taste and maybe the quality of the meat, but it is literally changing the meat. The meat is literally being changed somehow by being exposed to the light. I think it just seems like it'd be better not to have to go through that change. It doesn't seem like it's a positive thing. Things that are exposed to light, you hear about it all the time that the light degrades them. It destroys the quality of it. And I just assume that's what is happening with the meat too. So, you get the meat in the back, it's in a box, so it's not exposed to light. You get it more fresh. The color looks better. It's not changed as much. And just to go off on a little tangent about all the other places that sell meat around here in Salt Lakes more specifically, there is meat in Salt Lake that seems to come from really good, somewhat local sources like Redmond's. They have really dark meat that looks really good, but the problem is they always freeze it. When I eat Redmond's and I eat bar 10, like, bar 10's always better. Redmond's, I can tell, like, it's dark, it's not, like, terrible, but I can tell I can taste a quality loss because it's been frozen. I would love to try it fresh. A lot of these I've talked to 2 different ranchers, and they all have the same idea, and I don't know if this is, like, something that they actually believe or they're just saying this because it's better for their business, but they think that freezing meat doesn't alter it in a way that matters, and I really wanna just push that it does. It does make a difference, and it does matter, and I think if people want to support fresh meat more, non-frozen meat, you can support with your wallet. Go to places that have fresh meat and support that. Tell the butcher and the people at the store that's what you like and that's what you want to see. And the more people that do that, I think the more it'll be around. And at the very least, hopefully it just doesn't go away because that's kind of what it feels like to some degree. So yeah, Redmond's, their meats looks really good. And well, it's somewhat local, which is really amazing. It's just frozen, and it's the only way to get it. And I think they could easily sell their meat fresh because they seem to be getting more and more popular, and I would like to see that there. I would make a video supporting Redmond's if I could see that their meat was fresh and I tried it and it tasted great, which I'm sure it would. Another place is Utah Natural Meats, and they're in like West Jordan or something. I used to go there all the time, and I live in Salt Lake because of their raw milk, which I really enjoy. And they have raw goat milk, which is awesome, and that's a little challenging to get. So it's awesome they have that. Their meat, 80% of the time, and I bought it probably like 10 to 15 times. And granted, this was like 2 or 3 years ago when I was going there, so maybe they've changed, but I doubt it. Their meat, I had thought, and it's like already almost smelling bad. So I don't know what they're doing there. Like they probably think that aged meat is great or something, and that's what they do, or maybe the meat just sits there for too long. Again, it's kind of I think on the package you can see when it was packed, but I probably I probably could be better at checking that, but either way, like, when I thaw the meat, it's already turning. It's not good raw, it's gross. I remember throwing away and even the cooked meat, sometimes it's like, I just don't like old meat, and I don't know how to prepare old meat to taste good, like, when it's I like my meat pretty raw in the middle or, rare, and if it's old, it's just you're getting that old taste to it, and so, yeah, Utah Natural Meats is not been good, and I really love what they do. I think places like that and, I don't know, I assume I'm not sure where their meat comes from, if that's their meat or it comes from somewhere else, but they're very local, and I really love the sound of that, and I would like to see these places serving fresh meat. They definitely have enough business to do it, but again, I think it's probably just a convenience issue. Again, frozen meat, you keep it frozen, you guarantee to sell it all. If it's fresh, if people don't buy it all in a few weeks, it's gonna be brown, and they're gonna have to throw some of it away. It is more of a trade-off for the store and the farmer and the rancher and whatever, but it's worse for us. I can't stop pushing how much better meat that hasn't been frozen is. Let's see what else I got here. So I'd really like to see It's hard to get fresh meat, like fresh muscle meat. It's almost impossible to get fresh organs. And organs, people say they're the most nutritionally dense part of the animal. My experience with organs is they're usually pretty gross. I realized because I had this experience once where somebody brought me a fresh elk liver that they barely killed. It was a wild elk, and I ate that, and it was actually really good. I realized I started learning after that point that oh, this is what fresh tastes like, and I started realizing that all the other organs I was eating they were just really old, and I didn't know the difference because I haven't experienced the difference. In order to know the difference, you have to experience it. It sounds obvious, but I just feel like it's not said. And I was just used to eating old organs, and I would always be forcing myself to eat this raw liver, and it would make me gag, and so I'd, like, drink it down with some milk, but once I had this fresh liver, I realized, like, "Oh, this is the reason why this other stuff makes me gag is because it just tastes it's just really old," and organs are kinda like fish, like, when they start turning, they start getting really potent tasting, like, more than a lot more than, like, the actual muscle meat does, so you eat old liver, you're getting, like, a really potent experience, and again, I don't think there's anything wrong with eating old meat, but I really like fresh meat. It's enjoyable. It makes me want to eat it more, and I consider it a health food, so I want to feel like eating foods that I consider healthy, and this is how I get myself to eat them and enjoy them. Organs, again, are probably the most nutritionally dense food in the world, is what people say. And they actually taste decent when they're really fresh, but you just can't get them anywhere fresh. And who knows what all these companies do with their organs. I know Redmond's like they share like the liver and stuff, but again, it's frozen. I've gotten liver from Redmond's actually many times, and it's not bad part of the time. Again, it's been frozen, so it's lost something. It's lost some quality to it. But I can tell sometimes that the liver is sometimes fresh. It's really dark, but it turns really quickly. So I don't know what's up with that. Maybe organs just turn more quickly, or maybe it is getting older and I just don't have awareness around that. Oh man, it'd be really amazing if I could see just fresh organs coming in. And I'd really love to see that with the Bar 10 brand. Like if they could bring some of their organs in and sell those fresh, but they don't. And I've asked them. Another thing I would really like to see, and this sounds a little serial killer, but I would really like to see animal blood. I think there's something probably really special about that people are sleeping on. And I've tried rabbit blood fresh, and it was actually pretty good. It just tasted like a little salty, you could say tasted like there was sodium in it, which that's part of the reason why I suspect that there might be something really amazing to animal blood is that you're getting minerals and all these things people are like kind of obsessed with nowadays, minerals, and they consume these Frankenstein mineral powders, which is just an extremely processed, extracted, alienated food, part of a food. I'd rather get like a real natural, like what looks like a healthy source of that and blood seems like might be the greatest source out there. And so I'd really like to start experimenting with that, but it's just not available at all. And I really think people just dump the blood out. So it's just all being wasted. So I've asked Harmon's to see if they can get the blood, but they don't do anything about it or they can't. So yeah, things I would like to see. I want to see more meat that's never been frozen. I want it to be as fresh as possible, of course, from healthy raised grass-fed animals. I want to see fresh blood. I want to see fresh organs. The most nutritionally dense food in the world is just being thrown away or given to who knows what, not us. And I guess if people watch this video, they like it and they want to see more videos of me reviewing other places in more detail, you're welcome to let me know. Another thing people can do if they want to see more videos that might motivate me to do this more is they can let me know they want to donate money and the money would just go to making more content like this. And I won't make an account where you can donate money to unless enough people ask. I'm going to do this with no advertisement on it because I hate advertisement. And that's all I have for now.